Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is going to be the Q&A video that I mentioned I was going to do last week. So first of all, I just want to say thank you to everybody who sent me a question. I will try to keep my answers short, but I do have a tendency to just start talking and never shut up. So we'll see how this goes. What do you sound like when you read and you get to an emotional part? So basically, are you mostly a quiet reader? No, I'm not. At all. Reading has always been like a really escapist activity for me because it's what I used to kind of get away from my life at the time because I was bullied a lot as a child, and reading was always that one thing that I used to just escape. So I feel like because of that, reading has always been a super immersive activity for me. Like I just get really into the book. So whenever there's like a really intense scene that's going on, I do have a tendency to yell at my book, especially in parts where I get really bad secondhand embarrassment. I have to like put the book down. Do you prefer reading a book knowing what it's about or knowing nothing about it and then going in completely blind? I definitely have to know what it's about. Not only do I have to know what it's about, I have to have some understanding of what other people think about it. So that's why I really love Goodreads and Booktube. I will say though, for books that have like maybe mixed reviews, if I see a lot of mixed reviews but I see that like one or two people that I personally trust and like I follow like on either on Booktube or anywhere else, I found that they like it, I'm gonna trust their review and I will be more inclined to pick it up even if it does have mixed reviews. But for the most part, I definitely have to know what a book is about. So if your life could be turned into a movie, which actress would you want to play you? I don't think my life is interesting enough to ever be made into a movie, if I'm honest. I kind of want to say Emma Stone, but only because one time a really good friend of mine told me that Emma Stone really reminded her of me, and that was like the biggest compliment I have ever received, I think, because I love Emma Stone. I think she's hilarious and I freaking love her. And my friend told me, it's like, oh, she reminds me of you, and I was like, oh my god, you're wrong, but thank you. But honestly, if there ever was a movie made about me, I would want it to be a Mexican actress, just because I am Mexican. Aw, thank you guys for all the nice comments, by the way. What protagonist would you like to be for 24 hours? Oh, this is a good one. I'm gonna say Selena, just because I want to know what it feels like to be a badass for at least a day. Plus Kale. What is your favorite genre or your least favorite genre? My favorite genre is fantasy, anything fantasy. It could be low fantasy, high fantasy. Least favorite, probably erotica. I don't mind the sex, but I need backstory with the sex. Like it can't just all be like bow chicka bow wow. Like it has to have story and character development and stuff like that. I don't read a story just for the getting jiggy with it part. How did you balance reading and school? I didn't. Before I started my Booktube channel, it wasn't until that year really that I started picking up reading again, because when I was in school, I went to school full-time, I worked full-time, especially because I'm an English major, or I was an English major, so there was already so much required reading that I had to do. And then that coupled with like all my other classes, coupled with like my full-time job, I didn't read. And it wasn't until right before I started Booktube, I didn't really have that many literature classes anymore because I was basically done with all my lit classes. I only had like writing classes, so I had a lot more time open even if I was still working full-time. When I was in school, I didn't. That was really when my reading like for pleasure just pretty much stopped for a couple years when I was in college, and it was just mostly because I didn't have time. And even when I did have time, I had so much reading to do for school already that I just didn't really feel like reading when I got home again. Like I said, when everything kind of slowed down again, that's when I kind of picked it back up, and this is what happened. Plus, I will say Booktube helped a lot because I got really excited about reading again and I started collecting my own books. Like right before I started Booktube was when I made like the conscious decision that I was going to start book collecting, because that was like a dream of mine since I was a kid, to one day kind of have like my own little personal library. So like right before I started booktubing, I would say, is when I really started to take into account that I was going to start building up my collection. And I think I've done pretty well right now. So yeah, I'm happy with the collection I have now and I'm excited to see it keep growing. But yeah, I definitely wasn't good at balancing that at all because I just had too much stuff to deal with. What author would you like to meet? J.K. Rowling. I know that everybody always says never meet your idols, but I want to meet her and just thank her. I'm gonna embarrass myself, I'm gonna cry, but I want to meet her one day. But does your family read as well, or are you the only one? I'm the only one. My little brother does do a little bit of reading. He's in 5th grade right now, so he does do a bit of reading, but I'm definitely the biggest reader in the house. Like, easily. What was your first book? What was it about, and how old were you? I actually have one of my first books, and it's this little book. It's Cenicienta, so it's Cinderella, and I had a whole bunch of these growing up, and then when my little brother was born, my mom brought them from Mexico to read to him, and he ended up destroying most of them, which I'm still a little upset about. So this is one of the only surviving ones. How old are you now? I am 22, about to turn 23 at the end of the month. What would be your dream job? A writer? Or actually no, my first dream job as a child was a singer. I always wanted to be a singer. I dreamt about being a singer, I dreamt about performing, until I kind of had to come to terms with the fact that I have no talent and I really can't sing, nor should I ever sing in public. So writing became my fallback pretty quickly. Where's your favorite reading spot? My bed. I'm boring. Do you speak any other languages besides English? Sí, hablo español. Spanish is my first language, and then English is my second language. I took 2 years of French in high school, but to be honest, I don't really remember much except for like fromage and bonjour, je m'appelle Virginie, because my name was Virginie. My French teacher wasn't really interested in learning our names, so she just gave us French names, and my pronunciation was always awful. In college, I took a year of Japanese for my second language that was required for English majors. I still remember a little bit, but I have to admit that like I haven't practiced. I remember stuff like Ohayo gozaimasu, Senya desu. I don't know, what do I say? What do you guys want me to say? You're not gonna answer me. Eigo to Spengo to skoshi Nihongo hanashimasu. I just said I speak English, Spanish, and a little bit of Japanese. I also tried to teach myself Korean because I was going to study abroad in South Korea. But my plans kind of fell through last minute because I just couldn't afford it. I didn't get enough financial aid that year, and everything just kind of blew up in my face. So I still do really want to try to learn Korean. I have the textbooks and everything, but I just haven't really dedicated my time to learning it properly. So I speak fluently, as in I can read, write, and speak really, really well English and Spanish. And then French, not really. And then a little bit of Japanese and Korean, but just like a little bit. Have you ever read a translated book? Yes, I was actually really lucky. I think with my high school education, I was in like all the AP classes and stuff, especially for English, and we had a very diverse curriculum, I would say. Of course, we read like classics like Catcher in the Rye, Jane Eyre, Tess of the Baskervilles, and stuff like that. And then we also read like more modern classics, kind of like The Things They Carried, which I absolutely loved. And then because the population in my school was pretty much largely either Latina and Asian, and then within those I think we were primarily kind of like Mexican and Vietnamese. Those were like the two highest populations, I guess, in the school. We read a lot of literature that was Mexican American and Vietnamese. So we read stuff like Bless Me Ultima, Rain of Gold, which I think that one was translated as well. I don't think Bless Me Ultima was translated though, was it? Those are the ones that I can remember at the top of my head, but I know for sure that I read like a lot of translated works throughout my schooling. I think I'm very lucky to have read such a diverse set of works because I don't think that a lot of people get that chance. Everybody is studying school. I actually already graduated, and I have a Bachelor of Arts degree in English with an emphasis in technical and professional writing. What's your favorite booktuber? Or who's your favorite booktuber? I have so many. Right now I'm really loving Victoria from Victoria Shaz, Carol from The Reading Wildflower, Leslie from Leslie's Book Obsession, Grace with the book in her face. Oh my god, I have so many. I'll have recommended channels linked down in the description bar if you guys are interested in checking them out. Do you listen to music when you read? And if you do, what do you usually listen to? I do. I have to listen to music when I'm reading. I've been obsessed with this since it came out, but I've been kind of listening to it again this month. It is Of Monsters and Men. I love them. This album in particular is very, very kind of chill for the most part, and I really like listening to it like just in the background when I'm reading. Plus this album cover, guys, it's so pretty. And also the Halsey album. I will admit though, for this one I do kind of sometimes get into the music and I get distracted, but it's still such a great album. I've been obsessed with it. So these two I think are like my top ones that I've been listening to the most recently. Would you ever go into publishing or writing your own novels? Yes and yes, definitely yes. Publishing is difficult because I feel like most of the publishing houses are like on the other side of the country, and I live in California, so I would like to do that, but I feel like I would have to kind of move to the East Coast to like actually pursue that. And writing my own novels, yes, definitely yes. But what age were you when you first read Harry Potter, and what were your initial feelings? When I first read Harry Potter, it was actually read to me, and it was my 3rd grade teacher. I had just immigrated from Mexico to the US, and I didn't know any English whatsoever. And I remember one time she sat in the front of the class and she passed out pieces of paper. And to me, because I had come from Mexico, and this is something that they do in Mexico, but you kind of have to take lectura, I thought that what she was doing is that she was reading a passage and we had to draw something that corresponded to what she was reading, because nobody explained it to me and I didn't understand any of the English. So she was reading it in front of the class, and I noticed that like the girl next to me was drawing, so I was like, okay, well, we have to draw something about what she's saying. And the only thing that I was able to understand from everything she was saying was professor. So I was like, okay, profesor, un profesor. So I was like, what is a professor? I drew a scientist like with crazy Albert Einstein hair. I don't know how I knew Albert Einstein at the time. And like a lab coat and like this beaker, and to me that was a professor. When she was done reading it to the class, I remember being so scared, because I was like, what if I drew something wrong? Like, she's gonna collect it and she's gonna know that I didn't understand anything, and what if I did everything wrong, and what if like she yells at me in front of the whole class? Like, I was freaking out. And no, it turns out that it was just story time, and she just gave us a piece of paper to doodle and draw on as we listened to Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So that was my first ever experience with Harry Potter, and it was kind of terrifying. What are your top 3 female protagonists in books, TV, and film? First, this might be cheating, but I don't care, I need to include them in here. The Charmed sisters from the show Charmed, one of my all-time favorite TV shows. Mulan, because that was one of the first Disney movies I ever saw, and I've always just adored Mulan. Luna Lovegood. She's just herself, and she doesn't care what other people think about her, but she still manages to just be a really great human being and like a really positive person, and I just really admire that about Luna, and it's one of the reasons why she's one of my favorite characters in Harry Potter. So I think I'm gonna pick those 3. But I have so many, I could go on forever. What are your favorite flowers? Do you have a pet? What TV shows are you watching at the moment? And what book would you like to live in? Okay, I'm stopping now. Thanks, Veronica. Favorite flowers? I love sunflowers, I love carnations and lilies. I do like roses, but I do think they're a little overused, and compared to so many other flowers, I don't think that they're the most beautiful. Do you have a pet? No, we have 2 birds, but I don't like birds. They're my dad's, so I don't consider them my pets, but I did grow up with dogs my whole life, and we actually had a dog right at the point that we moved to this apartment, and then we had to give him away because we aren't allowed any dogs in this apartment. What TV shows are you watching at the moment? I'm not watching that much TV, honestly. I recently finished watching Agent Carter. Absolutely loved it. And oh, I started watching Daredevil a few days ago. I'm only like on episode 4 though, so I'm not that far into it, but I'm really enjoying it right now. What book world would you like to live in? Harry Potter? Is that too simple? I feel like any of the other worlds that I read about are just far too dangerous for me to live in, to be honest. Like, I'm just gonna die in any of the other worlds. Harry Potter is probably the safest, especially now that Voldemort's dead. You know, I can probably live there happily ever after. What are your favorite classic books? Catcher in the Rye is my favorite. How did you get into reading? Did you discover it on your own, or did someone else spark your interest? My mom really sparked my interest with these little books. And then when I got here, there were so many books to read, and I think that actually is one of the reasons I picked up English really quickly, is because I read so many books in 3rd grade that I just picked up the language rather quickly, and I became obsessed with my elementary school's library because like I come from a very, very small town in Mexico. Like there was no libraries, there was no bookstores where I came from. So when I got here and I realized that there were all these books around me, like I just started reading and I never really stopped. Are you going to do a room tour or a bookshelf tour? Room tour for sure, no. My room isn't that interesting. Bookshelf tour, yes. It's coming up in a few days, hopefully. I was wondering, what book would you like to have written yourself, rewrite for improvement, or wish never saw daylight and were therefore burned? Harry Potter's sacred. We're leaving Harry Potter out of this equation. To have written myself the Lunar Chronicles, because they're one of my favorite books right now. Okay, which one would I rewrite for improvement? This book could have easily been one of my favorites of the year, but there was small things that really bothered me about this, so if I could have a chance to rewrite it and work on those issues that I had with it, I would really like that. Plus the cover's beautiful. Which book do I hate? I don't think I hate any book. Maybe Love, Rosie? It was too long, and I'm not a huge fan of super slow burn romance, and that is the slow burn romance of slow burn romances. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't really miss it if I burned it, so I'm gonna choose that one to burn. I did really love the movie though. If you could forget everything that happens in a book or book series so you could read them again for the first time, what would it be? I feel like the easy choice would be Harry Potter for this, but I don't want to forget it. Harry Potter has had such a positive impact in my life that if I forgot it, I don't know what my life would be like now, to be honest. I picked the Lunar Chronicles again because I really like that series. Plus, the first time I read it, I marathoned the whole series when I was a little high on medication. It was like the week that I got my wisdom teeth pulled when I marathoned those books. So I would like to reread them a little bit with a better sense of clarity. What's your OTP? I think Ginny and Harry are one of my top ones. Leo and Piper from Charmed, like I said before, one of my, they're just so good for one another. I love them. And then JD and Turk from Scrubs, because they are the ultimate bro-TP of bro-TPs. Do you have an Amazon wishlist? I do have an Amazon wishlist, but I use it more as a way for me to keep track of the books that I want and the books that I have already bought. So I wouldn't feel comfortable sharing it on my channel because I feel like that's kind of me asking you guys to buy me stuff in a way. I feel weird about that personally, so I don't really share it with people, but I do have one. What's your all-time favorite series? I think we know the answer to that already. What Harry Potter house are you in? I am a Ravenclaw, a proud Ravenclaw. It took me a while to get comfortable with the fact that I was a Ravenclaw because for such a long time I really wanted to be Gryffindor. I thought that Gryffindor was the best house, but I'm just not Gryffindor material. And it took me a while to really come to terms with the fact that I was Ravenclaw, but I'm definitely a Ravenclaw. Ravenclaws are always just made out to be like the nerds, when there's so much more to Ravenclaws than that. What are your favorite TV shows? Charmed and Scrubs, for sure. Those are the two shows that I rewatch at least once or twice a year. And by rewatch, I don't mean like just watch a few episodes here and there. I mean I rewatch the whole series, like all seasons of, well, for Scrubs, I don't rewatch the last season as much, or the new last season. If you watch Scrubs, you know what I mean. How many books do you own, and how long does it take for you to read a book? I think I own a little over 200. 50% of the books I own I have read, and the other 50% I haven't, roughly. I'm very proud of myself for that, and I'm trying to work my way towards like reading more of the books that I currently own. And how long does it take you to read a book? Depending on the size of the book, it could take me anywhere from like 4 to 7 hours maybe, but if I break it down and read it like at different times, it'll take me like from maybe a day or two up to a week maybe. And I think those were most of the questions. That is it for this video. I really hope that you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you next time. Bye guys. This video is going to be my wrap-up video coupled with a TBR